Kia ora guys, Michelle here. In this video we are going to cover a topic which is very close to my heart, and that is post-trail depression. And at the end of it I am going to give you my 5 top tips for overcoming post-trail depression after the end of a long distance hike. Many hikers out there will tell you that after through hiking a long distance trail, they often feel like they are going through a period of depression. And this is something that is very common in the through hiking community. So what is post-trail depression? Well, for me, it's that feeling of hopelessness that you're left with at the end of a long distance hike. Effectively, it is a grieving process for the loss of the trail that you've just spent 3, 4, 5 months on. Many people can experience post-trail depression in a variety of different ways, and there really is no set definition of exactly what post-trail depression is. The important thing though is that it is a very real thing, and for the people that suffer with it, it can be incredibly debilitating. Now for me, I can definitely say that I have experienced some form of post-trail depression since finishing my through hike of Te Araroa North. And this has been compounded particularly because of the evolving situation with coronavirus worldwide. There are a number of Te Araroa hikers this past season whose hikes have been cut unfortunately short by the onset of the coronavirus worldwide and the lockdown that New Zealand has been in the past few weeks. For those people in particular, my heart completely goes out to them. I can't imagine what it must feel like to have not made the conscious decision to leave the trail. So if you are one of those hikers who has been suffering the effects of post-trail depression this year in particular, or even if you are a pass-through hiker, maybe from last year or a few years ago, who's been suffering the effects of post-trail depression since you finished your through hike, the last thing you want to do is just sit on it and hope that it goes away. And so I implore you to go and seek the help that you need. It doesn't necessarily need to be professional help. Even just speaking to a close friend or family member about what you're going through can help you exponentially. If you don't have anybody that you feel you can speak to, then I will make sure to link some resources for you in the description box down below. So make sure you go and check those out. So where does post-trail depression come from? Well, nobody really knows, and I think the real answer is that it can come from a variety of different contributing factors, and it can depend largely on the person who's experiencing it. One of the biggest things it can possibly be attributed to is the loss of a set routine such as you would have had on your long distance trail. Now, I have to hold myself up as one of the people who's never been particularly good at sticking to a set routine in my everyday life. But out on the trail, whether you set out to do so or not, you do end up with a very loose daily routine that you follow every single day. After a number of weeks, you start to rely on that routine as the constant in your life while the rest of your world is changing. And so all of a sudden, when that routine is taken away from you because you've finished your through hike, or perhaps you've had to stop for some other reason, you can feel quite unsettled. It's also quite closely tied into a loss of freedom. When you're out there on the trail, you feel like every decision that you make is not influenced by anybody else. You have complete freedom to decide exactly what your life is going to look like for that particular day, what you are going to do, and how you are going to react or respond to it. Often in our real lives, we don't get that luxury. We're often inundated with a variety of different outside environmental factors that can affect us on a daily basis. And in most cases, let's be honest, they usually affect us negatively. So being free from those things, being free of them and being away from them for any length of time, and actually having the time to delve a little bit deeper into yourself and figure out exactly what you want can be a really liberating thing. Sort of tied into that is also a loss of your identity as a person. I spent a lot of time and a lot of money in therapy trying to figure out exactly who I was and what I wanted as a person before I set out on Te Araroa. I didn't know exactly what I want. I didn't know who I wanted to be, and to be honest, I was at a complete loss for how I was going to be able to find those things. And then all of a sudden I found myself on Te Araroa. I slowly started to realize that I was developing this sense of identity for myself. In my head, as I was hiking during the day, I was getting ideas of the way that I wanted my life to look once I'd finished. But as soon as I came off the trail, things that seemed so clear-cut and simple on the trail all of a sudden seemed difficult. And now that I actually had put myself in a position where I could bring effect to them, I just could not get the motivation to do so. So I'd lost that sense of identity in myself, and at the same time I'd also lost the sense of community that had bolstered that identity. I wasn't walking with a group of people every day anymore who had the same goals and desires as me. I found that the thru hiking community is incredibly supportive. Everybody is out there wanting the same thing. Everybody is out there actively encouraging each other on. And for the first time in my life, again, I felt no judgment and I felt completely free to be the person that I am underneath the persona that I put on for the outside world. Now, these are all things that people who've set out to do their thru hike and have finished it in the way in which they intended might feel. But spare a special thought for those who've had to get off the trail for reasons that have been completely beyond their control, whether or not that's a major or even a minor injury or something like this global pandemic environment we now find ourselves in. Those people have got an even harder period to try and navigate, where they have to try and come to terms with the fact that even though maybe mentally they felt like they could carry on, and in some cases even physically, they have not been able to do that. Now, thankfully, my experience with post-trail depression hasn't been anywhere near as bad as I expected it was going to be. My concern was that I was going to be exactly one of these people who goes through these really vicious cycles of having such an awesome, amazing time on the trail and really having the time of my life, to then coming crashing back down to earth with a thud once I got off the trail. And so I took a lot of measures to both prepare myself before I set out on the trail, but also to keep myself mentally healthy whilst I was out there and since I have returned. And I've done this by combining a number of different things together into what I'm now referring to as my 5 top tips for overcoming post-trail depression. Okay, so number 5 is to seek out like-minded people. Now, I've read countless different accounts of post-trail depression from various different long-distance hikers, and most of them all have one thing in common, and that's that once they return to normal life, they feel out of place, they feel isolated, and they feel like they just can't establish a meaningful connection with the people in their lives anymore. It's partly to do with the way that you connect with other people when you're out on the trail. You all have a common goal, a common perspective. All of a sudden, when you return home from the trail, society sort of expects you to keep that personal stuff to yourself. And in addition to that, even though you really want to share your experience with people, there's only so many times that you can tell the people who haven't been out there on that journey with you about your various different adventures. But it's exactly experiences like that that now define who you are as a person. And so if all of a sudden you just stop talking about these things because the people in your life don't want to hear about them, you can really affect your mental health. So I recognized this really early on, and instead I decided that I just wanted to keep in touch with the people that I spent time with out on the trail. Other ways of doing this can be as simple as just joining a few forums online. There's so many different groups and communities on Facebook that I'm a part of, and I really try and immerse myself into those groups and provide advice and guidance for other people where I can. There's also things like YouTube channels like this one, and local hiking groups if you can find them. And another really great way of making sure that you're staying around like-minded communities is if you live close to a trail. Why not go out and offer some trail magic during the hiking season? This can help to serve a number of different purposes, not least of which helping out those hikers who are on the trail that particular year. Number 4 is very tightly interrelated with this, and that is to stay connected with your trail family. Now, of course, these people are also the like-minded people that I referred to in the previous tip. The difference between those people and your trail family is that you had those shared experiences with your trail family. They will be able to recall exact moments, exact feelings, exact emotions, and it's the sharing of those kind of things that can really bring you together more more as a group. Now you might be thinking that you're going to really struggle to reconnect with your trail family because maybe they don't live in the same area as you, or maybe they don't live in the same country as you. But in this day and age, with technology being what it is, I think this is a really great opportunity to be a little bit creative about things. Perhaps if your trail family live in the same country as you but just not the same region, you can get together to plan a catch-up somewhere. Or perhaps you might even just want to get in touch with them to plan your next thru hike together. Whatever it is, keeping in touch with the people that you built a really strong connection with on the trail is going to be super important in helping you get through your post-trail depression. Number 3 on my list is to bring the trail home. Now, this one is a particular favorite of mine because it allows me to exercise my creativity. So what do I mean by bring the trail home? Try to recreate the environment of the trail, the experiences that you had on the trail, at home in your own space. It's all about trying to get back to that simplicity and minimal kind of living that you experienced whilst you were out on the trail. One of the biggest takeaways for me of doing a long distance hike was that stark realization of exactly how little I needed to survive and be happy. By bringing the trail home, you give yourself an opportunity to really slow down and be creative. And there are tons of different ideas. Some of the ones that I came up with immediately after I got back from the trail were things like just going and camping out in your backyard. And I know that that's been something that's been really popular during the coronavirus lockdown. Outside of that, perhaps you could have a hut night indoors where you basically turn the inside of your house into a hut for the night. You can turn off all the electricity, cook with your burners, use your headlamps to see, and then pull all of the mattresses into the living room at night time and tell stories in front of the fire. Be creative and really use the trail as the impetus here. Number 2 on my list is to make yourself a plan and set yourself some goals. The period after you return from a thru hike of any trail is a great time for you to sit back and analyze your life and where you want to go to. In fact, you've probably already started doing this without realizing whilst you were actually on the trail. Some people keep lists of the things that they want to do or achieve or accomplish whilst they're actually hiking. A lot of thru hikers will return from their adventures and talk of the sense of clarity that they developed on the trail, of what they want their lives to look like and where they want to take their lives. It's important to take those feelings and actually craft them into some sort of tangible plan for yourself. And it doesn't have to be incredibly detailed. Even if it's something as simple as writing the top 3 things that you want to do in the next 5 or 10 years on a piece of paper and sticking it up on your wall. Another really great thing to do here to help you with this is to list down all of the accomplishments that you made while you were on the trail and all of the challenges that you faced. These things to me were incredibly important, and I found that I was just starting to forget them really fast after I returned from the trail. It's taken me a little while to get myself back into the habit of, when I'm feeling a little bit down, reminding myself that whilst I was out there on the trail, I did face my fears on a daily basis. Every single day had a challenge that I overcame. Having something to remind yourself of these things is going to help spur you on to move forwards. And it's also going to remind you that just because you're not having an experience with those same kinds of accomplishments and challenges and achievements doesn't mean that the things you're doing right now in your everyday life can't be accomplishments and achievements as well. So these goals could be the smallest little things. It could be saving up a certain amount of money so that you can do or create something. It could be signing yourself on for some sort of educational course where you learn a new skill or learn a new craft. You might even decide to write down your daily routine in the form of some sort of plan or set of goals, and every day tick off the things that are in that routine for you. And that brings us to my number 1 tip for coping with your post-trail depression. And that is to just keep hiking. Now, a lot of thru hikers will come off the trail and they will find no more motivation to go out hiking or walking for whatever reason. I often lack the motivation now to get out on a day hike in the way that I once would, because I just don't feel like I'm going to get the same experience out of it as I would in doing a multi-week or multi-month trip. But the problem with this is that you can very often find yourself after 6 or 12 months still sitting at home, having not gone back out into nature, and you might not have felt like you had any kind of post-trail depression up until that point, and yet 12 months later find yourself all of a sudden feeling this feeling of hopelessness. Your body all of a sudden is used to feeling that endorphin rush every single day, and if you just suddenly take that away because you've started your hike, you can really start to feel the negative effects of that very quickly. But more important than that, getting out there and just keeping hiking is important because you are taking action. You're actively doing something to improve the way that you feel, to improve your mental health, to connect with that environment that you love so much and get that nurturing feeling back. Multi-day trips are going to be great if you can get yourself out on these on a semi-regular basis, because they are the closest thing that you can get to a long distance through hike without the financial input, the emotional input and the physical input. Don't sit around and just wait for things to get better. Take action, keep moving and get outside. If you're watching this video, as you probably are, in the time of coronavirus lockdown, some of those things are not going to be possible at the moment. But I would really encourage you to still get outside and create your own trails. If you've checked out my video from last week, I actually made up a completely new trail around my local area within the guidelines of the lockdown that has been set here in New Zealand. I might not be able to go out and overnight camp anywhere, but at least I can still have a little mini adventure. Okay guys, I hope that has given you some handy ideas of what you can do to cope with your post-trail depression. If you're somebody who's been suffering with post-trail depression for a long time, or you're just in such a deep funk that you just really don't think you can pull yourself out of it by yourself, please go and seek help from a professional. Again, don't forget to check out those resources I've linked in the description down below. If you like this channel, you really enjoy the work that I do here, don't forget that you can support me at absolutely no extra cost to you by doing 3 simple things: hitting that like button, subscribing to this channel and dinging the notification bell. Those things really help me to support and grow this channel here on YouTube and continue providing the kind of content that you love. Keep your eyes out for my video next Friday, where I'm going to be taking you through exactly how much it cost me to hike Te Araroa North. I'm also planning to host one of my very first Q&A sessions in the near future. If you want to be involved in that, then you need to make sure that you are subscribed to this channel and that you have hit that notifications bell so you can get notifications when I post about it. And also go and follow me over on Instagram at this username here. That's all from me now guys. Stay healthy, stay safe out there, and I will see you next time.